富、名声、力、この世の全てを手に入れた男、海賊王ゴールド・ロジャー。彼の死に際に放った一言は人々を海へ駆り立てた。
俺の財宝か？欲しけりゃくれてやる。探せ、この世の全てをそこに置いてきた。
男たちはグランドラインを目指し夢を追い続ける。世はまさに大海賊時代。
ありつけの夢をかき集め、探し物を探しに行くのさ。ポケットのコイン、So that's who you wanna be, my friend. We are on the cruise. We are. Welcome, everybody, to the living, waking nightmare that is the One Piece live-action adaptation, and this podcast covering it. I am, as always, your host, Sour Lemon, and this is my co-host, CamCam, and we're going to talk about more than one episode this time, I promise. I promise? I swear.
Pinky swear. Pinky swear.
Pinky swear. And the reason why is because this is the first time that a single arc is covering more than one episode. And we've also covered a lot of ground on why a lot of like base elements of the series are bad. So we're probably going to get through more than one episode this time. And I really hope we do, because I hate myself every single time I have to keep thinking about this.
I refuse to watch this episode a third time.
I refuse to watch it a fourth time. Please.
I was like, I'm not gonna do it because this is like the episode I would dislike the most when we got to this point. Out of the 3 episodes, I was like, I hate this so much. The worst.
So at this point, it's been 3 weeks since I made my notes on the first 4 episodes. And I refuse to watch the episodes for a 4th time so that I can refresh my memory.
Yeah, just not gonna do it.
It's not worth it.
I don't blame you. No, definitely not. Because like the 3rd time, I just realized like, what are we doing again? This is this is the 3rd time I've said this. What are we doing?
Why are we doing this? We should just stop. We should just call it here.
I'm tapping out, bro. I'm tapping out.
Yeah. Alright, so continuing forth with the 3rd episode where we start with the Syrup Village arc. I do immediately start with a compliment in my notes for once, which is that the montage of child Usopp to adult Usopp running around the village telling everybody the pirates are coming is actually nifty. It's actually pretty nifty. It's actually pretty cool. It's pretty well done.
Yeah, I did like that. I did like that we started out with that because it gives an idea of like who he is and like his character, that he's a little goofy, you know.
Yeah.
But
this is how
and it was like good for the child actor, you know.
Yeah.
It's like something that a child actor is good at.
Yeah. But like this is how you condense material into a digestible fashion that still conveys the point, but just like quicker. This is how you do it, as opposed to the rest of the series, which doesn't do it.
Refuses to do it.
It's just not doing the same material. It's like pretending to condense the material, but it's also not at all, because it's not the same material.
No, it's not.
I did know it could have been more interesting if rather than do it the way they did, where they like run through the same beat of the montage, like the same, I guess, like 10-second or however long it is shot. If they like morphed in the middle of the shot from one to the other, but that would have been like very tricky to get right. And so I don't exactly blame them for not doing it. And it's just an idea that I had.
Yeah, maybe for like a live action adaptation, maybe they're like, oh, let's just play it safe. I mean, they weren't playing it safe.
Playing it safe. It was one of the biggest fucking budgets of any television show.
And they were playing it safe like the whole time. So like It would have been better, but whatever.
Well, it's more so they don't have like the time, like they don't have like $100 million on a single episode to
That's
spend
true.
perfecting just one like morphing montage shot, because that's probably what it would have taken to like adequately develop the technique and get
Hmm.
the setup and the acting that such that it works right, and get the visual effects artists to do it correctly. It would have taken a lot of time and money, and it would the payoff would not have been worth it. It would have been cool, but the payoff would not have been worth it. And it also would have had a lot of opportunity to look just like absolute garbage.
Yeah, yeah. So like, yeah, just play it safe, I guess.
Yeah.
Fair.
Although looking like garbage would not be, out of style.
Out of character.
Yeah, it would not have been out of character.
So like, it's just been another thing to add to the list. So
Yeah. So also at this point in the story, Luffy starts referring to his crew as the Straw Hat Pirates, which is again something that he never does in One Piece. And I don't think he ever calls his crew the Straw Hats like ever at any point in the story.
yeah,
But
when we were watching the
certainly,
anime, we were talking about that. That you were like, yeah, I don't think he ever calls his crew the Straw Hat Pirates, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
And the anime
So
even refers to them as the Luffy Pirates for like a long time.
yeah, yeah.
So it's
So
it's it's
that's weird.
odd that he calls them the Straw Hats, because the Straw Hats is like a name that other people give to them. And
Hmm.
to be fair, I guess they Usopp, well, Luffy, I guess, originally designs the flag, although it looks shitty. Um, but
But yeah, the Straw Hat. Yeah,
they do come up with the design of the Straw Hat on the Jolly Roger, but they don't refer to themselves as Straw Hat Pirates. It's everybody else that refers to them as such.
yeah. I guess it's like they do it that way to like introduce the crew as the Straw Hat Pirates. It's like easier that way, you know?
Well, yeah, but it's also dumber because it, you can just as easily do that by, like in the original series, having all of the antagonists refer to them as the Straw Hats, or as Luffy as Straw Hat, like Smoker. Smoker is, I think, the first prominent instance of referring to Luffy as Straw Hat rather than Luffy, and as the crew as a whole as the Straw Hat Pirates.
Yeah,
Um,
or maybe like Garp could call him that or something since he
yeah,
comes up in this, in all the episodes a million times, you know?
yes, and it's also better to do it at that point in the story, because that's when they're ostensibly an actual crew. Like that's the first time there's any significant amount of them and together all at the same time.
And they've done like
Is
the
starting in
most
Logtown.
damage, you could say.
Yeah. Because at this point there's only three of them. After Sierra Village, there's four. Which at that point in time, especially since that's when they create the Jolly Roger, you could technically start referring to them as Straw Hats at that point. But you can't do it after they recruit Sanji, because like they're split up. Um, and so it's after Arlong Park, when they're actually all together, where it starts making sense to refer to them as an entire pirate crew.
Yeah. Yeah, that would make sense because like it's just like three bums at this
Yeah.
point, like you said.
But again, it's like,
That aren't really a crew at this
yeah,
point. Like they say they're not
yes,
a crew. They're not in
they
sync with each other.
yeah, they're not a crew. They say they're not a crew. They're not a crew. Luffy keeps insisting they're a crew, but the other two don't want to be a crew.
Yeah, and Luffy's the kind of person that lets people decide like what they want to do with their life and just
Yeah,
like
he's
make their own decisions.
he is insistent when he wants people to join his crew, but what he also recognizes when people have like goals and dreams that are divergent from his, and they
Yeah.
don't want to join him. Like it's actually interesting to think about. There's a lot of characters throughout the series that he like initially, when he sees them, insists like, join my crew. um
Mm.
but for a handful of them, um after like the story of the arc happens, he does give up on them, because prior to the story happening, first of all, he didn't actually know them, and he invites them because he thinks they're cool.
Yeah.
But they don't have like their story arc resolved. So, like, they don't have their issues sort of like fixed so that they can start pursuing their dreams. They're like still hung up with something at that point. So Luffy can have the ability to invite them. But after they have their issues fixed and they can pursue their dreams, that's when they like may find a dream that is different from joining Luffy. And that's when he recognizes that and is like, okay, go fulfill your dreams.
Yeah, like Kobe, for example.
Yeah. Because I think he does actually initially invite Kobe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know if he does it. I think he does in the live action too, but he recognizes that like Kobe wants to join the Marines, and like Kobe decides for himself to do it. So Luffy's like, "Hey, deuces, bye."
Deuces.
So.
But I do again want to reiterate, it's just as effective to have the antagonists refer to them as the Straw Hat Pirates, have them introduce the idea of them being called the Straw Hat Pirates than them calling themselves that.
Maybe like I said, maybe they just wanted to get it out there and get it over with, but it's just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, it's also
wrong people.
It's also stupid to insist on that as well. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see it as that big of a deal, but yeah, I totally get what you mean.
Also, so I then write "Go away, Garp" because there's apparently another scene with Garp, but that's all I write about it.
Where is he? I don't know. What is he doing? I don't know either. I don't care. I'm sick of this
Doesn't
man.
matter.
He's very handsome, but I'm sick of him.
Very Scottish or Irish, wherever he's from. Don't remember.
What a hunk, but.
We're into older guys here.
We're into older men, but like he does nothing for me in One Piece at this point. Same with Kobe and Helmet though. Like they're just meh.
But here is where I finally write down all of my issues with the camera work and the cinematography and the editing.
Let's go.
Generally speaking, and it gets brought up because the three of them, Luffy, Zolo, Nami, are like, oh, we need a ship. Syrup Village is nearby. They're actually known for their shipbuilding. We're gonna go there, and they're like exploring the town, basically. And there's like a conversation between Luffy and Zolo about like bounty posters, and Luffy's like, "Oh, I can't believe they don't have my bounty up." And Zoro's like, "Oh, yeah. Buggy sucks. I can't believe he was worth like 15 million berries, and I didn't get to turn him in."
Yeah, and I think they see Alvida's poster as well. Like...
Yeah, that's just like what's happening. But I bring up the camera work because throughout this dialogue scene, it's awkward. immediately obvious that the camera work is just atrociously bad. In a worse form than either of the previous two episodes.
Yeah. I don't know why.
And the main way that this manifests is this sort of like fisheye effect that happens with the cameras. Where they place the camera like either sufficiently close to or zoomed in on a character's face with an extremely precise focal distance, such that it distorts the image behind the character, and it blurs a lot of the distinctness of the image outside of that precise focal distance. And they made it like excessively precise on Zolo and Luffy's faces for this scene, so you just get an aggressive fisheye for no reason. And the reason why, and it's not as though you can't ever use this sort of effect in this precise focal distance, but it doesn't work in this scene because usually you do that kind of thing to create a sense of like unease or tension, or it's very effective in like horror film kind of style. Um, but they're just having a normal conversation here. So why would you do it?
Yeah, like they did it with Kobe whenever like Alvita is harassing him, and that worked really well because he's like scared, and you really want to see his facial expressions at that point, so that works really well. But with like this fisheye lens, they're in like the town's, I guess it's like the town square. So there's
It's like a
people
regular
like,
street.
yeah, and so there's people going like back and forth. There's like it's like a busy street. So like you're just seeing like blurry people, and it kind of,
Blurry
it's very
buildings.
distracting because like you're seeing like the people's, like Luffy and Zolo's faces, but then you're seeing a bunch of blurry people going back and forth. So it's just like very distracting. And versus like when you have Kobe's face and you're just focusing on his face and nothing else in the background. And
Yeah.
then it also made the buildings look crusty and dusty.
I
I'm
think
like,
that
this is but
I think some of that's more the coloration than it is
yeah.
the distortion. 'Cause
But
that was
but
also
but like the
just
blurring effect just like gave it no detail.
yeah, it's just totally indistinct what's going on in the background for no reason. You like
Yeah.
if you want your image to look like a person is viewing the scene happening with like their own eyes. There's no point in having any sort of distortion. Uh and it doesn't look like I'm viewing it with my eyes. It looks like I'm viewing it through like I guess a binocular. Uh
Yeah.
because the other reason for that is because it's also right up in their fucking face.
Yeah,
It's so
and then
claustrophobic all the time.
yes. Yes, and it makes me not even want to look at the screen, honestly, because of the claustrophobia. It makes me like not even want to look at it, honestly.
These are such pervasive issues too throughout the entire series.
And I don't know why it starts at this point. Like,
I mean, it was definitely there previously, but it wasn't nearly as bad as starting with this scene.
yeah, like I would like to know, like, bro, what was the deal here? Like, who took over the camera at this point? Like, did somebody get sick? Did somebody get COVID? And then so like somebody else had to take over the camera? Like, what
Or
happened?
were there cameramen, or rather the people directing them, like the cinematographer and the director, just like complete amateurs?
Yeah, honestly, and then too, I'm like, this is supposed to be like a like in the anime, the seaside town. It's supposed to be like a seaside town and on a cliff, and it's like super beautiful. I thought in the anime, it's like a cute little quaint
Yeah,
town.
it's a very quaint small town. I wouldn't necessarily say it's beautiful, but it's definitely a lot more colorful.
Yes, and it's like crusty, dusty, like lifeless, like sandy. Like you get that yellowing, that we talked about, like that kind of yellow color of all the buildings in the background, like we talked about in the other, like in the first episode. So I'm like, it doesn't look pretty. What is happening?
It's so it's so nasty looking.
Yes, I'm like crusty and dusty. It was
It,
very disappointing.
and another thing in regards to the blurring is the way another way I phrased it here is as though as they're always hiding something. If it's not just like shit, but it looks like they're hiding something. Like they expect all of like their backgrounds and the stuff going on in the background to look like shit, to be shit, and so they're always hiding it. Um,
Like that's true.
and the thing is I don't think it's actually shit with them hiding it. They're just hiding it for no reason.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Because it'll
Again,
happen later on where they'll be doing this with like actual main characters behind the where the focal point of the camera is. Like there's a scene in Kokoyashi Village where I think it might be Zolo is talking and Usopp is behind him. But you can't make out any of Usopp's features, any of the actor's
yes.
features, and he even like has a line during this scene. And
No.
so it's like, why can't I see him? Let the actor act. You're not
No.
letting him act. I don't get it.
They just tell them, like, you just have to say the line. Like, don't even make a facial expression. Just, like, say the line. It's fine.
Um,
People aren't going to see you anyways. It's okay.
yeah. Another thing with the camera work is that they're constantly shooting people's faces at like an upward angle too, so you're seeing them from like below the chin. Again,
Mhm.
for like no reason. I don't know why I'm always looking up at people's like noses.
Yeah, and, like, when you're shooting up, like, you can see all the pores, like,
Well, yeah,
around.
they have the camera focused so that you can see like all of their pores next to their nose, but none of the pores on the rest of their face because it's not detailed
Yeah.
because it's the camera focus is incredibly specific.
I'm like, "Bro, like, we can't get some, like, pore filling primer on them? Like, makeup crew, what are you doing?
Well,
I
it's
shouldn't be seeing no pores. I don't wanna see no
okay.
pores."
I don't think it's a big deal if you can see the actor's pores. I
Oh,
just
I'm
think it's a
sorry.
big deal if you can't see all of their pores.
But my point is it's distracting. I don't wanna be, like, so focused on, like, the crappy job the makeup crew is doing and, like, the fact that, like, "Oh, they need a touch up."
Well,
I don't wanna
yeah,
focus on that.
and you wouldn't be able to see that such detail
Exactly.
if you just had the camera move like 5 feet backwards from the scene that they're shooting
Exactly.
instead of like a foot away from their face.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so weird. I hate it.
Um, the shot composition during dialogue scenes is also incredibly boring. It's just shot, reverse shot, see the character that's speaking, swap to the other character, back to the character that's speaking. Like, there's no. They don't direct the camera work in an interesting manner during the dialogue scenes. You just are always only seeing the person who is speaking. Um,
Mhm.
which is you're again, let the actors act. There's acting happening outside of the person who is directly speaking, and you're not showing it. Let
Yeah.
the actors act.
And so it feels like you're not really getting to know the characters
Yeah,
either.
you don't get to see any of like how they feel about like any thing that is happening around them.
And I think the only like again, they kind of I mean even like with Nami for example, cuz like she's kind of sus. When did she start getting sus? I think it's around this episode.
I
So
mean,
they have to like purposely make her do kind of sussy stuff.
well, she's
Like
yeah, I guess I see what you mean. I'm just saying she's like sus in the beginning,
mhm.
and then she like you do actually get a sense that she is getting a little bit attached to the two of them, just I guess from the way that she's interacting with them. Um, but she does do a couple like suspicious things because they force her to act like a thief. She steals things from the mansion, so I see what you mean.
Yeah. So like my point is if you try to like if you were to like kind of focus like if you included her in the shots like where they're kind of talking, maybe you could have focused on some of her facial expressions and like kind of made it to where the audience has to kind of like think and kind of like figure out like oh maybe something's going on with her like instead they're having to like point it out like very blatantly what her intentions are.
Yeah. Um,
Because
the
in the anime they make it very they do it very subtly.
yeah, yeah. Um, So during dialogue scenes, there's also like a million different camera angles that they use for each character, and I just had like a way of relating this. It's kind of like the actors are being shot as though they're in front of a paparazzi, with like a bunch of cameras like all next to each other pointed at their face, while they're trying to do the acting. You see what I'm trying to get at? Because like it'll
Yeah.
show the person's face at one angle, and then like a few seconds later, it'll show them at a different angle after they do the reverse shot
Yeah.
thing. And it's just needlessly complicated. And
Yeah. I
I
see what you
think
mean.
I think the reason it looks that way is less because it was deliberate and more due to or less because it was deliberately shot that way to look that way, and more so because of the editing process. Because I imagine they did like one, maybe two or three takes for each camera angle. And the idea when you do that sort of thing is you take the one that was acted the best or looks the best from the camera
Mhm.
angle. But when they took it to the editing process, they ended up stringing together the quote unquote best parts of each individual take with each individual angle. So you get this shifting camera angles across the dialogue scene because they're because of the way that they're doing the editing. And
There's like no rhyme or reason.
yeah, and
They're
one of
just
the
doing the best
reason
ones.
yeah, and one of the reasons I'm confident in saying it's an editing thing is also because the sound mixing. You can tell that they're stringing together a bunch of different takes when you listen to the sound mixing, because you'll hear that the dialogue is being, or the sound from the dialogue is being cut off at the end, usually, sometimes at the beginning of
Mhm.
the takes. So you can hear where they're stringing it together. Which is also bad because if you're going to do that kind of thing, you shouldn't. It shouldn't be obvious from the sound mixing that you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I super noticed that.
Well,
But
I
when
only
you
noticed
pointed it
it.
out, yeah, because you did point it out to me, like when we were watching it, and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
yeah, that
the
does
only
sound
reason I
weird.
noticed it is because it wasn't the first time I was watching it, and so I was paying attention to the things that were bad.
You were
um,
extra paying attention, yeah.
yeah. That said,
And
it's not like the most obvious to a casual viewer through most of the series, but it is
mhm,
obvious for a particular monologue that Arlong has at the end, which is part of the reason I paid attention to it throughout the rest of the series when I rewatched it. Because I'm like, the editing was really bad there. So
yeah,
it's probably bad elsewhere too.
yeah, definitely. And I don't know. I guess it's just laziness, or maybe they just didn't have enough time.
Uh,
Maybe.
I I mean, I think it's just amateur is what it is.
Hmm.
More than anything else.
Hmm.
Um, I can't imagine something like that being a consequence of time constraints
Hmm.
or money constraints,
Yeah.
because that's something that you like, that requires doing editing. That requires actually doing things to put it together that way. Um
Hmm.
and you're not like, I guess some elements of it, like the sound mixing, could be a consequence of timeliness, but it just it comes across more as lazy than it does as running out of time. Because it's something that would be incredibly easy to fix, um, provided that you have the uh, right, like, footage and audio ahead of time. Which, I mean, it's possible the editors didn't, because it was poorly directed. So, like, it's just like a
Yeah.
failure on every level, and whenever you have a failure on one
It's like a
stage,
domino
it
effect.
carries over into the next stage. And not being involved in the process, it's hard to say exactly where things went wrong, but you can point to the things that are wrong and that did go wrong. It's hard to say where they went wrong, but they were obviously wrong. And it's it feels like an amateur production.
When it shouldn't have been. I mean, this is literally One Piece live action.
Yeah,
Like, come on.
yeah.
This how long has One Piece been
It's
running? Like 20 years?
well over 20 years. Um,
Yeah.
the manga, or the anime, started airing in 1999. The manga, I think, started in 1997, I think.
Mhm.
Um, so over 25 years it's been
Mhm.
ongoing, and it's, I believe, the most popular manga globally right now, and has been for a long time. Or maybe not in the immediate, because like some of the Shonen Jump manga, like ebb and flow through the rankings. Demon Slayer was immensely popular for a period of time. One Piece has been like consistently extremely popular globally.
Yeah.
And it was also a high budget Netflix production. And so it's just like I at the end of the day, I don't understand why you would have a bunch of amateurs do it, or why you wouldn't, or if you didn't hire a bunch of amateurs, why it went wrong. I
Mhm.
don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It seems, I mean, it's just like very disappointing either way you look at it. Because, like, it seems like episode 1 and 2, like, of course they had their problems, but it was like, oh, okay, it's like kind of bearable. But then once episode 3 hit, I mean, it just kind of went all downhill. I feel like it just
Yeah.
started like, yikes.
So again, the cameras are constantly pointed at the scenes at like awkward angles as opposed to being flat. There's like never a flat camera angle, I feel like,
Hmm.
which is really annoying. There's a lot of shitty lighting and color filters. If it's filters, I think it's filters because I don't think anything would naturally look that yellow.
Yeah, I absolutely hate it. Like, it doesn't feel like a seaside town. It feels like we're in the desert.
Yeah.
It feels
I
like
mean,
we're in.
maybe they filmed
It
it in the
feels like
desert.
we're in Texas when it hasn't rained in like a year. That's what it feels like. There's like no
Um,
humidity in the air.
yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the ways I phrased it in my notes here is that it's like they approached it with the mindset of doing more stuff is better. Doing more camera angles, doing more editing, doing more filters, doing more stuff uh is apparently better. It makes it better to them as opposed to
Hmm.
doing stuff with intent.
Strategically, yeah.
Yeah. It's like they don't understand the purpose of each of the things that they are doing.
Yeah, it's like they learned something. It's like me playing that card game. This is a new card, so I want to use it.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh,
yes. Yeah.
let's try
Oh,
this.
oh man. Um, let's get back to the actual like shitty writing itself though.
Yeah.
So they go to get a ship, and Nami and Zolo effectively offer to Luffy to steal a ship. And
Yeah.
Luffy apparently cares a whole lot about the morality of stealing.
Yeah. And I don't know, it seems kind of weird because
It's very weird.
Luffy's Luffy's never talked about like, oh, Luffy has never said like, oh, we shouldn't steal.
Yeah, they're pirates. Luffy understands that pirates steal, even if he's not like a pillaging pirate. Even if he doesn't
Yeah.
pillage, he seems
He doesn't
perfectly okay with
murder.
stealing.
Yeah.
He is okay with killing people. Now, are the people that well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say he actually kills anybody throughout the series, but he
But
states he's
murdering
willing
just to
to kill
murder.
people.
Okay. Yeah.
He says he's willing to kill people, and he says people die in the process of pursuing their dreams. Um, and so he has a strong moral compass, especially as far as who he's willing to murder or beat up at
Hmm.
least. But if you had like a truly, I suppose, conventional strong moral compass, then even if you dislike somebody, you would, or even if somebody's reprehensible, you wouldn't kill them. Um, whereas, so it's as though the live action Luffy has a once again like a Western washed moral compass over
Yeah.
the actual Monkey D. Luffy, where he now as opposed to having like an interesting moral compass, uh,
Hmm.
he has just like a very conventional one, and he's like, "No, we're not gonna steal."
Yeah. And what else was I gonna say? Oh, and then this might be a little early to say this, but when we head to the shipyard, I thought that was kind of a good idea to put in a shipyard because like
You never
I know
see it in the actual series.
yeah, and so I thought it was really cool to see all the different ships being built. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
I mean
did like that scene.
it was it was cool looking at least.
Mhm.
But I have issues with the fact that they did it at
Okay.
all. Um, it's like fine in concept, but again, a misunderstanding of the point of the right of how One Piece is
Mhm.
written. Um, right before I talk about that, though, I make one note about how Zolo only exists to remove fun. Uh, once again.
Yes,
Uh,
literally. This
I, f- I forget the particulars of why I wrote it, but I also wrote that Zoro and Luffy are supposed to be like pretty similar to each other as characters. They like mesh well with each other.
they're
With
bros.
yeah, with their what they value and what
Mhm.
they do with their actions. Whereas this Zolo and Luffy, they have like a lot more conflict in
They butt
what
heads.
they yeah in what they value and how they act and it's feels very bizarre and it once again it just feels like the main reason for that is that Zolo is just no fun.
Yeah, and it seems maybe it's supposed to add like conflict within the crew, but again, the crew is supposed to like synergize with each other and
I actually
like
I actually do
be a good
take issue
community.
I actually do take issue with having that sort of conflict at this point in the story because there
Yeah.
actually is conflict between the members of the Straw Hat Pirates
Yeah.
at certain points through the entirety of One Piece. And some of the reason why those moments work so well is because you spend a lot of time not just getting to know these people but like how they work together and um how they uh, in what places they coincide with like values and morality.
Mhm.
So when you have a conflict between Luffy and Zoro later in the story, it hits particularly hard because you spent a lot of time with these two, and I'm not talking about Whiskey Peak. That's a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
different.
That's silly. Yeah.
That was like a silly joke,
It was a bit,
effectively.
yeah.
It was funny, but not, you know.
I didn't think
I'm
it was very funny, but like, whatever.
I'm talking about a point after that that you
Mhm.
don't know about yet. Um,
Okay, yeah.
it hits particularly hard because you spend so much time with Zoro really working alongside Luffy and
Yeah.
them effectively being of the same mind in most if not all circumstances. Then you get
Yeah.
to that point and then and they have like an actual conflict between them in how they think they should proceed. Um, and it works really well there. But here it's like I don't know, they barely know each other and they don't seem to work well with each other at all. There's no reason for them to like each other. I don't know. It was a long tangent. I don't know
Yeah.
if I made the point adequately.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get what you mean. And again, like I don't like it either. I think they've just won Zoro. I guess with McKenyu, like McKenyu is like so handsome. Okay, and he fits that kind of bad boy aesthetic. So I'm kind of thinking maybe that's where they wanted to go with like Zoro, and
Well,
Zoro kind of fits the bad boy attitude. So I think maybe that's where they wanted to go, but again, that's not Zoro. You know?
they wrote Zoro like the mindless One Piece consumer who like doesn't think at all about the One Piece
Exactly.
that they're consumer. They wrote him like a Zoro stands who just sit there and like, oh yeah, Zoro's cool, Zoro's badass. Oh,
No, literally, they did. They did.
His
Oh my
little,
god,
like,
I'm
a
just being. I just saw you beat your chest. Oh my god.
They write him like he's like a chest beating gorilla. And it's like, no, this is not Zorro.
No, and so it again, it's just like it's super weird, and like the acting is just terrible. I mean,
Yeah,
it makes you uncomfortable.
yeah.
I don't know, like it's just no chemistry, like you said. I mean, it's not even chemistry with like the actors. Again, like it just feels like the way they wrote the actors, none of them have chemistry with each other.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a lack of chemistry in the writing, as
hmm
opposed to a lack of chemistry in the acting. Also, this jacket I'm wearing is like fur lined. It's really hot, so I'm gonna have to take it off and put something else on.
okay.
I've been doing the like whole open vest thing, but like that one was way too warm to keep doing that for.
It looked very comfy though.
I mean, it's comfy when you're not like sweating and dying.
Yeah, definitely. When you're not like over here beating your chest.
Yeah, yes.
You've really got the heart rate pumping.
It's because I get no physical exercise. You know, every little movement raises my heartbeat by 20
Oh my god.
BPM.
That's funny.
um, so one of the issues I take with having this ship yard scene is that Luffy gets attached to the Going Merry before like even owning or using it. He just like sees the sheep's head mast, or
This is
not
mine.
mast, figurehead, and he's like, I feel a connection, which is totally ridiculous. The entire reason why, like,
It's
we're
woo
like
woo.
we're like one arc away from you really like fully understanding a lot of what I talk about with regards to particularly the Going Merry, but even like what I mentioned with conflict within the crew and like certain stuff, because we haven't watched the actual series in it's quite some time, so we're still in the middle of Skypiea.
Yeah.
But it's just it feels offensive to have him feel spiritually attached to the Going Merry, as opposed
It's
to
very woo woo.
yeah, as opposed to becoming attached to the ship through their use of it. Because in that second circumstance, in the way that the actual series does it, the Going Merry comes to become a companion of the Straw Hats. It becomes
Yeah.
a part of their crew. Whereas in this circumstance, he
just likes it.
yeah, he just feels like spiritually connected to it. So if the ship, it feels like if the ship got destroyed right now, he would be just as heartbroken as if the Going Merry got destroyed in the series, like after they crossed Reverse Mountain, or even
Yeah.
later than that. I don't know.
And
it's shallow.
yeah, it does feel very shallow. And my thing is we meet Usopp here because like I guess he wants to buy it, and so like Usopp appears because Usopp's working on it.
Yes.
And I'm like, and Usopp, he works at the shipyard, and I'm like, why does Usopp have a job?
Yes, I also wrote that down. Why is Usopp employed?
Like, Usopp's kind of a bum, bro. Like in the anime, he's a bum. Like he
Yeah.
has this. I mean, like all he does all day is like cause is a
He
menace
LARPs
to
as a pirate.
society. Yeah, with these with little munchkins in tow.
Yeah. And I think that's like the big thing that is missing out on by him being employed. It's not so much like whether or not him having a job makes sense, and more so when you aren't introduced to him through and see him LARPing as a pirate. Like that's a fundamental part of his character and his introduction. And you're just completely whiffing that. And he does have a lot of like sort of charismatic and interesting dialogue, where he says that he is a barnacle scrubber and bird poop scrubber in a fancy way, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Fucking bugs. But he, like, you don't ever see him
Ew.
LARPing as a pirate. you see him like lying but not LARPing. And I think the LARPing,
It's
like him aspiring to be a pirate, is what you want to see. 'Cause
mhm.
that's what the point of him LARPing is that's what he is aspiring to be, but he's too much of a coward to like do it himself, and in addition to not really having a good opportunity to do so. Whereas here he's just a liar, and it's not as interesting.
Well, and he's more of like a suave liar. Like, you kind of meet men who are lying, who like kind of lie like
You're gonna call
this and
Usopp
like
a pickup artist?
yes. Oh my god. Yes. He's kind of like very like suave and he lies like this, and like he plays it off like he's all cool. And like that's not Usopp. Usopp's like a kind of a weirdo, bro. Like Usopp like blatantly lies, but he's kind of like nervous about it. And like you can kind of tell he's stumbling over his words when he's lying. And it's funny. But like this Usopp, she's just too handsome and too
they
suave, Like it's not Usopp.
I don't. I personally don't have as much of a problem with it. And they do try to do that like shaky lying stuff at points later on.
Hmm.
Um, and I do feel it doesn't work as well as in the actual series. 'Cause some of like the point of not only his character but also like as a joke with him lying in the actual series is that it's really obvious that he's lying, and that some
Yeah,
people are fooled by it anyways, like Luffy. Um,
yeah, because Luffy's kind of dumb,
yeah.
you know.
Whereas here, because it's not nearly as over the top, when he's doing his like nervous lying, it's a little less like fun and clear. So I do kind of take issue with that portrayal, but I don't necessarily mind what they had the actor do with
Hmm.
the lying.
I don't know. And this is oh, remember when we talked about like um should Alvida be like pretty? Well, or not? Like should they have picked like a pretty
Yes.
actress? My thing is they should have picked an ugly actor for Usopp.
Because Usopp is ugly.
Yes,
Eh,
Usopp's kind of dorky and ugly, and this actor, he's too handsome. I'm sorry, they should have picked an
um,
uglier guy. He's just
I
too handsome.
I forget the name of it, but there's this racist portrayal of black people in
Hmm.
America that like Usopp is reminiscent of with his like thick lips and darker skin tone.
Um,
So are you saying that they should have picked an actor that looked like that stereotype?
not that stereotype, okay? But I didn't. My thing is like I was going for like the whole Pinocchio effect. Maybe they should have added like
They should have picked somebody who naturally had just the massive nose.
I was thinking of maybe a little bit of like special effect makeup or something, like maybe a little bit more like goofy hair, like
Well,
something.
unfortunately, they're going for a lot more like of a serious, down to earth look for the entire series,
Hmm.
and with the way that the
With the
rest,
fishman.
with the way that the well, I don't know. I don't actually mind the way that they did the fishmen for the most part. I'm more so referring to like
I hate the
uh
makeup of the fishman, but
everything
like,
else.
anyways, that's
I
another
mean,
thing.
it doesn't necessarily look good, but I also don't necessarily think they could have. It would have been easy to do much better. Um,
They could have done a much better job with special
that's
effects.
that's kind
Okay,
of
I'm just
beside the
saying.
point of what I'm getting at, though. I'm more so saying I think the normal Usopp nose would have looked incredibly out of place for the general aesthetic of
Okay.
everything else they were going for.
I think not super exaggerated, but like even just like a little bit of something, like a little bit of ugliness.
Yeah.
A little bit of
Unfortunately,
ugly.
unfortunately, provided they get this far in the live action, it does mean the entire elimination of a particular joke. Because if you remember how in Warship Island they had the peninsula that they called the Usopp's Nose Peninsula, So they have sporadically throughout the series jokes relating to Usopp's nose, and in particular,
Mhm.
there's a character in an arc with a nose that is like Usopp's length, but it's square instead of round. And they make a variety of jokes about how he looks like Usopp and how because of his nose.
I don't remember that.
Well, yeah, you haven't seen him yet.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
No.
saying we had seen it because I was like, that happened. I don't remember that.
No,
but
no,
okay.
no.
So yeah, we're gonna miss out on those jokes.
Yeah.
Huh.
Provided
I mean,
they didn't do that
they change so much around that like, it's
before.
that would seem pretty.
They're already just completely eliminating a lot of jokes.
So it's like, what's another one?
Yeah.
Oh, and one thing I wrote down. I don't know if Garp says this. Experience don't define us. It's what we learn from them.
It is Garp that says that, yes.
Okay.
I think it's
And
later on, though, maybe?
yeah, I don't know why I wrote that down, but I don't think I liked it.
Is it was sometime in these 2 episodes that he said that.
But yeah, maybe it'll come to me later. But that was one thing that I wrote down, and I can't remember why I wrote that down, but I think it has something to do with what is said later with Luffy. But anyways, yeah.
I also don't like them directly moralizing to the audience once again.
Yeah, maybe.
There
But
is
yeah.
a scene with Garp and Kobe at this point, though, and this is where they start playing Go against each other.
Yeah.
And I said it's a really ill-conceived metaphor because you don't see any of the Go game that they're playing, and so they have to tell you how Kobe is playing like too defensively and nervously, and how he needs to play quicker and more on the attack if he wants to win. And
Yeah, because like
it's just
I've never played Go, so I'm like, I don't know what's happening on the board.
Well,
I'm like, does anybody know what's happening on the board? Like, I don't know.
it's like if you want to include a scene where a game is representative of the characters and or what's happening in the plot, you have to show the game in any sort of capacity so that the audience either ideally when they're just normally viewing it, but or if they want to dissect it, can relate what's happening in the game to what is happening in the series. But you don't see any of the game, and you're just told what you're supposed to take away from what is happening. And so it's
Yeah.
just really weak and lame.
Yeah, because like whenever we get like Kobe and Helmeppo scenes, like in the anime, we get a lot of Kobe's like thoughts about like being nervous or like wanting to change and wanting to be brave and stuff like that. But here we don't get any of that. I feel like we get mostly Garp kind of narrating how Kobe feels, kind of.
Scarp is here, and he needs to have a lot of lines because everybody loves Garp. Garp is so cool, guys. Look, it's Garp. Garp is here. We'll never get enough Garp.
God, Garp. I mean, like I said, he's very handsome, but get out of here. Get out.
Get the fuck out of here, Garp.
There's the door. Leave now.
Yeah. I must have skipped a lot of like what happens in the plot, just not having stuff to write down, which I will say is a good thing. If I didn't write anything down about any section of the episode or any section of the series, that means that I didn't have anything negative to say about it, which is good.
Okay, well, I have some things.
So I don't have anything negative to say up until they show Nami stealing some shit from the mansion.
Okay, yes, I did mention that, but I don't know why my camera is like doing that. But anyways, one thing that I didn't like was that when we get to the mansion, it feels very how do I put this? It feels very kind of. Have you seen the Alice in Wonderland live action?
Yeah, the one with Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter.
Yeah.
It's been a long time though.
Yeah. it kind of feels like this. Like the way the mansion is set up, the outside, the inside of the mansion, it's like very it was very nostalgic because it felt like Alice in Wonderland live action. And I was like, well, that's kind of lame. Like why are we doing Alice in Wonderland in One Piece? Again, it was just I just thought it was kind of lame.
I don't know.
Uh
I'll have to take your word for that one because I do not remember like any of that movie.
yeah, it just felt very out of place for me. Again, it just kind of felt like we were in a fun house. And another thing is that um I did I did like the scene in the anime where like Usopp is telling stories to Kaya outside the window. Or like he's like outside of the window and like she's listening like inside the mansion, and it kind of like signifies them being like in two different worlds.
That is
And I did like
true.
that scene.
That
But
is that is a very good point that I did not think about.
but in the live action, he's actually in the mansion talking to her and telling this story.
Yeah.
And so that's just something that is completely missed because Usopp is like a complete outsider in Kaya's world. He doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
And it kind of, in a sense, feels like that he is starting to belong in live action, which again just misses the whole point of Usopp's character development.
This is true. They did do it. They did at least do one thing though, with having him actually
Mhm.
inside Kaya's room, and that is that Usopp's actor is like the only one that's allowed to have fun. Uh,
He is fun. He is fun.
he was like rocking in the chair and he was like exploring the room as he was telling his story, which I
Mhm.
thought was pretty fun and interesting. Um,
Again, he's very suave and very like he's just so fun. He's fun to watch. He's a great actor. I didn't look up his name. I didn't look up anything about him. I forgot. I'm so sorry, sir. I don't know your name at all, but he's great. I loved him. I loved
um,
watching him.
I do have to agree though when now that you bring it up that it is less like good storytelling wise than what the actual series does.
And again, I hate and then we have like the dinner scene and I hate Kaya's clothes. They make her look like an old lady. Like how old is she? She's got to
all
be like
sickly people only wear old lady clothes.
honestly, like I'm chronically ill, okay, and you don't see me in old lady clothes, excuse me.
She's like the same
Like
age as Uz. I think they actually directly just say that she's turning 18 that day.
yeah, yeah, she's turning 18. Like, why is an 18-year-old wearing grandma clothes? My mom doesn't even dress like that. My mom's like 60, okay? And I'm just like, again, what is makeup and costume doing? And
They had like an entire scene where Zolo, Luffy, and Nami like pick out clothes. So
yeah,
they bothered to have an entire closet filled with fun clothes or whatever, or at least look like that it was filled with clothing.
yeah. And everybody looks great except her. And again, it just feels like they're like, oh, chronically ill people like don't like to wear cute clothes and don't like to have fun.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Um
do you guys not hang around chronically ill people? Because again, this feels ableist. I'm just saying.
you say they all look good though. I'm not like the biggest fan of Solo's t-shirt.
Really?
Yeah, it like looked fine, and they were
Hmm.
doing a thing with the design where it's got like three bars on it to represent the fact that he uses three swords.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I just thought it looked kind of stupid.
Hmm. I thought it was cute,
It was very
but
plain.
but again, like he's no fun. He's no fun.
He is no fun. This is true. He is no fun.
He's no fun. He's got to look plain Jane.
Yeah.
And what else? I didn't like the lighting in the mansion. Again, it's just like very dark.
I the way that they portrayed the lighting too, like technologically, I feel was kind of odd. Cuz they used or like made it look like they were using like 1920s incandescent light bulbs. And
Mhm.
that was why everything looked like very dark, really, and oddly colored. It's because they were
Yeah.
using low brightness, old style light bulbs. Um,
Yeah.
and
It kind
like,
it looked like they had like kind of like oil lamps kind of feel.
yeah. And One Piece is a very like difficult to say the least series to analyze technologically. Like it's
Mhm.
very all over the place in terms of
Yeah.
what technology exists, with one exception, which is like extremely futuristic. Um, so I can understand coming at it from the angle of the series kind of feels like it should have a lot of olderish technology, because like their main way of communication is through these transponder snails rather than like uh, personal electronic devices, and they don't have anything like the internet. They still use newspapers. Like
And write letters, yeah.
they seem to have a in One Piece a very um I guess old fashioned mechanism of communications, outdated technology for communications, but not outdated technology for like military or ship purposes or like other uh,
Yeah.
purposes. But I just don't think if you, I just don't think it's something that you should be that concerned about. I don't think it's something that matters all that much, and it would be better for the series if you just used like regular high brightness, even LED light bulbs for the scene.
Yeah. I really think so too because it's just again, it just I don't know if they wanted to go like
It's
kind
like
of
of
old
all,
fashioned because it's like an old fashioned like manor mansion like kind of creepy vibes, Halloweeny vibes
it's just
like
of all the things to be concerned about, why would it be that?
yeah.
Like,
I just
you see later on with the way that they do the security features too. They turn like a ship's wheel, and so it's like mechanically wound up, I guess, activating the security features. But doing
yeah.
so also like triggers the circuit breaker and like overloads the power of the system, so all
Yeah.
of the lights are flickering for some reason. And it just seems just uh, ill-conceived. It's ill-conceived from like a filmmaking perspective, but it would also be ill-conceived within the world of One Piece itself. Like nobody would do that. It
No.
may have like weird levels of technology, but the people in the world of One Piece are not like stupid.
Yeah. No. Not. I mean maybe like uh, it's just again, I just hate it. And Kuro too. He's just like I don't know. He just felt really awkward to me. I don't know if they're. I don't know. Like I guess because we see him more. I feel like we don't see him that much in the beginning of the series, but we see him a lot in the live action. I don't know. He's just kind of creepy.
I don't think we see him like any more or less proportionally, but I think
Mm.
the issue is in the actual series, he is rather like charismatic, um, almost,
Hmm.
and sort of suave. Like he feels very. I don't know if persuasive is the way to put it. Um, but in the live action, he comes across like far more of just a straight up dick.
Yeah.
He's so like pushy and overly, it wouldn't be concerned, but like neurotic about
Yes.
what
Yes.
is happening with Kaya, as opposed to the actual series itself, where he's very he comes across as a lot more like a normal butler. in the actual series, whereas in this one he's just incredibly um uh, concerned with what's going on with Kaya, to
He
an
reminds me of
excessive
those.
degree.
He reminds me of those parents that like have their kids like Munchausen by proxy. You know what I mean?
Helicopter parent.
Kind of. And because like in the anime, like whenever Usopp like punches him in the anime, and I was because like Kuro's talking all kind of trash to him,
He's
I was kind of like,
That's one way to look at it. He's manipulative in the actual series, where he's just a dick in the live
hmm
action.
yeah, and I just um like in the anime, like I was kind of like I was like, okay, well, like I can kind of see Kuro as like kind of the protective father figure. So like, okay, I kind of won't hold it against him for like, saying all this stuff to Usopp. Like, okay, protective father figure that's kind of like a little overbearing. Okay, whatever.
And in some
Eh,
ways, it's like kind of deserved. It's overbearing for sure, but you definitely like. It's very pointed insults towards Usopp in that
yeah,
moment.
yeah. And but then in the live action, um, you, it's like the show is like very pointy, like very telling you like he is a bad guy. Like there is no like mystery behind him. He is like dangerous, you know?
Yeah, I did appreciate that they kept the turds on his suit though.
Yes. That was needed, you know. And I did notice they were turds this time
I
because I did
um
not notice in the anime.
uh I noted that the poison that they use for Kaya, I once again reiterate, I don't think having him slowly poison Kaya is a bad idea. I actually
hmm
do think it works better in some ways than having her just be sickly because she's depressed. Um
hmm
but I dislike the way that they used the poison, because they made everything that's poisoned this like extremely obvious blue color that looks so nasty. Like nobody would ever want to eat something that looks, or drink something that looks like the poisoned substances that they were giving to Kaya. Um and there was
Yeah,
just
it's like
no subtlety in what they were doing whatsoever.
yeah, I mean like usually like did you hear the have this is kind of random. Have you heard the story about like the wives back in the day, like way back in the day that would like secretly poison their husbands? It was like in like liquid form that they would put in their foods to disguise the fact they were poisoning their husbands. Like, come on now. You would think if you're poisoning somebody, you would try to hide it. Like,
Yeah,
come on
and
now.
he's like, "Oh, she has special dietary needs because she's sickly." And it's like, I
So she's
mean,
eating like neon blue stuff.
when did her
Okay.
when did her symptoms start? The stuff that she's eating is like neon blue. Uh, like to any observer, it would look so obvious that this is not how you treat somebody who is sickly, is with the gross ass blue food, blue
Yeah.
soup.
Yeah. But I did like Kaya's actress. I didn't look her up. Sorry, girl. But I did like her. I thought she did a good job. So, yeah.
Um,
But Kaya's in the anime, she seemed like a lot more fun and a little lighthearted versus this
yes,
one. She felt more serious and kind of she felt like
she
a lot older than what she was, you
they
know?
they went too far in having her
Mhm.
act sickly.
Yeah.
Um, because I can imagine they probably told the actress to be incredibly reserved with like all of her motions, all of her physical
Mm,
motions, to indicate that like she doesn't have much like physical constitution. Whereas in the actual series, even though she's susceptible to being sick because or she's frail because she's depressed, she does like wear great big smiles on her face and like try to like be physically interactive.
Yeah. So it's like, again, this feels ableist. Have you not met a chronically ill person in your life?
Yeah, dude, like there are plenty of people with AIDS and similar diseases who and they try to like have fun in their lives. They don't want to be like held back perpetually by the fact that they're just susceptible, extremely susceptible to being sick. Um, the good example that I would refer to as a chronically online person is the live streaming VTuber Iron Mouse. She has some kind
Mhm.
of immunodeficiency disorder that makes her incredibly susceptible to being sick, and she apparently like barely is able to leave her house, constantly has to take medicine and yada yada yada. But when she's online, uh, streaming and interacting and playing games with other streamers and whatnot, she's for the most part incredibly like exuberant and active
Yeah.
as a person, even though she's incredibly restricted in what she's physically able to do, so she like can't leave her house. Um,
Yeah. And I think I think because maybe the way she was written in the anime, because because it's more like a mental thing. She's like she's able to be more active and kind of do things, kind of smile more and stuff like that. But because she's being physically poisoned in the live action, they wanted to make her seem more ill. You know what I mean?
I mean, sure, but I feel like that's just making excuses for the live action.
I don't know. That's kind of the mindset I'm going for, maybe. But again, that's like you've never met a chronically ill person in your life. Like, oh, come on, go, like, I think it's like 1 in 5 people have a chronic illness. So yeah, again, like I'm sure there's a chronically ill person that works and that worked. I'm sure there's a handful of chronically ill people that worked on the One Piece live action. Like, come on now.
Socialized medicine. Socialized medicine.
Literally. Like again, my medicine costs like $30,000 and trying to get it approved by the insurance is such a headache. So like, come on, please. I'm dying over here, literally.
Yeah, like, stop holding people's lives hostage with money. Socialized medicine. That's
Yeah.
One Piece would be pro socialized medicine, but that's
Literally.
beside the point. Actually, yes,
You
literally. Drum Island. We haven't talked about it yet on this podcast, but like it's literally the point of Drum Island.
literally. Literally. Luffy would. Luffy would.
Yeah. Come on, Luffy actually fought an oppressive king for the sake of providing socialized medicine for the entirety of the island.
And those
Come on.
doctors were like, yes, we are gonna let's go. Socialized medicine, let's go.
Yes.
Thank you for freeing us.
Please, we want to take care of people.
So yeah. I agree.
Yes. That's kind of beside the point though.
There's my rant for the day.
Yes. So I wrote down once again, Zolo's stupid, and I wrote in quotes, I'm gonna wear black because I'm cool.
Yep. He's so handsome. He can wear anything. He can wear so it doesn't matter. He looked
He
great.
like literally says, I don't care what I wear so long as it's black. And it's like,
Does he really say that? Oh my
it's
god.
something to that effect. And it's like, stop trying to make him like so edgy and cool. Do you not see what the actual Zoro wears? He wears like a plain white t-shirt and everything else is green. It's the green
Yeah.
like Aramaki waistband. The
Doesn't he wear, like, purple,
dark
too?
but still green pants.
I feel like he wears purple too, maybe.
The post time skip design when he's wearing like a kimono thing, it's also green. I mean, all of the characters wear like a variety of different outfits at different points in the series, but his basic outfit pre time skip is like not black.
So like, what's the deal, bro? Again,
I
they
don't-
just
I
They
don't get
skimmed
it.
through the manga and were like they skipped all the parts where he's like fun
They
and then
skipped. They actually just skipped every page with Zoro on it.
and they're just like,
They
oh, cool, Leggy bro. Okay, let's
yeah.
go.
They saw the drawings of Zoro where like, his shirt wasn't filled in with ink and they just imagined what color it was and he was like and they were like, "You know what? I think Oda meant to fill it in with ink."
Oh my god. Even like on the merch, like I got a Zoro shirt from Hot Topic and like it's a white shirt. He's wearing a white shirt. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
like come on, guys. His headband is green too.
Yeah. It's so
He's green,
frustrating.
not black. If you were going to make like a joke about what color he's gonna wear, it should have been green as opposed to like the super edgy but cool black.
hmm Again, he looks great in black, but like that's not Zoro. I don't think
Yeah.
Zoro would never. I think he wears something colorful like in the Alabasta arc, right?
Um.
I feel like
He wears the same type of clothing that they all wear, which is like typical desert clothing, where it's light, loose clothing,
mm,
lightly colored, loose clothing. Um.
mm. I feel
So
like it
it's
has some
just
color on it, but it's not
it's
black. It's
a
not
little bit.
black.
It's mostly white.
Yeah, it's not black.
Yeah. And he wear and of course they have Oda draws the color spreads for every volume of the manga,
hmm
and on those he gives everybody different outfits. And I'm sure on a couple of them Zoro's wearing black, but he's wearing a lot of there's a lot of different outfits on there that are very colorful that he's wearing.
Oh, he's wearing orange. He has like the orange wrap around his head.
Oh, that's what it was. It was orange.
Yeah, it's white and black. It's he's wearing like a white and black cover, and then he's wearing the orange wrap around his head with like a yellow band across his forehead holding it in place.
Uh, Still, it's mostly like light colors, which I mean,
Yeah, with
in
the
that
white t-shirt underneath
yeah, in
with
in
his
that case, but
black
in that
and green. Yeah.
but in that case, it's far less about like what Zoro would prefer to wear, and more so the clothing of the geographical area that he's
hmm
in at the time.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas in this case, it's what he wants to wear, which I just think it's like really like stupid, and them going out of their way to make him seem like so cool. Ah, he's just so cool. Ah, he's wearing black. That's so cool. Oh, he's so cool.
He is
Ah,
so
kill
cool.
me.
Zolo is so cool. McKenyu is so cool.
God, he's so cool, guys.
He's so handsome. I love McKenyu. Oh my god. I follow him on Instagram now. Ugh. So yeah. Think that's one good thing about One Piece live action. It's introduced me to so many handsome and beautiful actresses and actors. So
Who will very unfortunately never get nearly as high profile as a role as One Piece live action, which is very sad because not only did this series do them dirty, but I mean, insofar as I can tell, I feel like they're probably capable of being succeeding on higher profile
yeah.
projects.
I mean, McKenyu has a huge fan base because like he's beautiful. Okay, like of course he does. So like I think he hopefully will be in another big role. I mean, like a lot of his fans who never watched One Piece came to just watch him. So,
Oh, is that the case? I did not know that.
yeah. Yeah, they all showed up to support him. All his stands. It's so cute.
So we also
Hey
get
cat?
yeah. So we also get Luffy saying in regards to like Kaya's closet on the size of the mansion, he's like, "Oh, rich people must feel lonely," which is
This is
more
weird.
it's more Americanization and antithetical to the One Piece itself never like at least to my memory directly comments on like the nature of wealth and how it's distributed,
Mm,
but like ideologically speaking, if you consider what the rest of the series like comments on and where it aligns, um it it would be in line with those beliefs and that ideology for it to be against wealth hoarding.
It
And
is. I mean,
and
like
wealth.
Drum Island, for instance.
Yeah, but that's more about like oppressive non-democratic government rule, and
Hmm.
far more about socialized medicine. Um,
Yeah, I see what you mean. But
whereas this is it's more about wealth inequality. But it just feels antithetical to the ideology that One Piece presents to try and uh like humanize, so to speak, rich people.
I mean, I do feel like maybe some rich people feel kind of lonely, especially like older rich people. Like
Yeah,
my dad's a stonemason, so he works like really like people who can afford stone masonry work like are rich. And so like there's this rich old lady and man, let me tell you, she loves to give out gifts. And since it's Christmas, she be giving out all kinds of gifts. And I mean like good gifts. So like I don't know if it's cuz she's lonely or what, but like, she just sees like these poor Mexicans and she's like, "Okay, here's some gifts." So I don't know.
yeah, I'm sure wealthy people are lonely, but they might be a little bit less lonely if they didn't hoard their wealth. Just throwing that out there.
But hey, she's I mean, if she wants to give to the poor Mexicans out here, I mean, that's great. I love stuff. I love those cookies that she makes, and I love those Starbucks gift cards. Okay.
Yeah, the other thing that she could do though is use that money to make sure that all of the poor Mexicans in your area are given adequate benefits by the government to live adequate lives instead of having to rely on charitable gifts from this old lady.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm sure she pays a lot of taxes because it's a big house. So, like, I would hope. I
I'm
mean,
sure
I'm
she
sure she's got
doesn't
tons of
because you're
money.
in Texas.
I mean, yeah, but like, doing taxes for some people, I mean, like, some people have to pay tons of taxes back. It's wild, bro. You'd be surprised. But like one oh I don't never mind, I can't talk about that. No, I can't talk about that. Never mind.
Yeah,
I'll
but
tell
if
you
your
later.
yeah, but if your wealth is tied up in assets, then they're not nearly as heavily taxed as actual direct income, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that's true.
anyways, that's like a fucking socialist diatribe. It's just completely beside the point. But God, do I hate the camera work? Oh man, I hate it so much. I don't
In
even
the
remember
dining
why I
room.
wrote that down, but it sucks.
In the dining room.
Maybe. I don't know. I just wrote down, God, I hate the camera work so much.
The dining room scene I put is just super awkward. It makes me feel yucky.
Oh,
Um
no, this was before
the
the dining room scene. I can tell because my
oh
next note says something about the moldy glass.
hmm. Then what comes up before that? I don't remember.
I don't know. It
Okay.
it, it could. I think actually it was in regards to the camera work inside of the closet while they were
Hmm.
changing. Either that or it would have been about the scene where Kuro points out the moldy glass. But I think the closet makes more sense for the camera work to be bad. Um, speaking of the moldy glass, though, it's like it was just like really incredibly obvious that it was moldy. Like, how would you ever miss the fact that it was moldy? In
Yeah, and
terms
like
of like the
how would
people
you
preparing the table.
and if you're washing the glass, it takes a while for like glasses like that to get moldy. So like and if you just washed it, like, it wouldn't get moldy like that, Like,
Like
so
even the dumbest of people are not like so incompetent that they would never notice that there was just this incredibly moldy glass on the table.
yeah.
It was just weird.
They could have pointed, like, maybe with that scene, instead of, like, a moldy glass, they could have maybe done, like, maybe the silverware wasn't polished right. That would make more sense.
Yeah. They also did a really weird camera focusing technique with the glass too, where like the camera show was pointed at the glass,
Mhm.
but the glass was out of focus, and then they refocused the camera on the glass, so it's like, oh, now you can see it's moldy. It's like,
It took a
what was,
while to focus it, I feel like.
yeah, it's like just like what was the point of doing that? I don't, I just don't get it. Like this just would have been way simpler of like a process while accomplishing no less if you just showed the moldy glass. I don't. It's just weird.
Yeah. And then he like drops it and break it, and then you're supposed to be like, huh, sus, or he's scary, and I'm like, ooh, so scary. Like, I don't know. It just wasn't very exciting. I guess it didn't do. I understand what it was trying to do, but like it didn't do anything for me. I guess I don't know.
It was just lower impact than it was intended to be.
Yeah. Then like I mean, it like hit you once we got to know Usopp, and then like we have like in the anime, and then we have outside where like Kuro is like kind of egging Usopp on and like talking all kind of crap to Usopp. Like that was like, I mean, it was such a huge impact, and that really hits you in the gut. You know, that was so good in the anime, and it made you really feel for Usopp, and it made you really dislike Kuro. And in this scene, it's just like it does nothing. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it was so much less impact than the scene when Usopp hits Kuro. It's just the fact that they don't have anything even like remotely similar to that scene is just an incredible missed
A
opportunity.
letdown.
That scene is just so fundamental to Usopp and the arc as a whole. And it's like, why did you cut it out? I don't get it.
Yeah, and again, it's like Usopp not belonging. He doesn't belong anywhere. He does, and he doesn't belong in Kaya's world, and so it's just sad.
Yeah.
And in the scene, it's just like, whatever. He
Uh
got
yeah.
what is his name? Ignatius? I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay,
Ignatius.
he's
Uh
lucky.
and it's the kind of name you get when you get an ailing grandmother just picking up cat from actually I have no idea where she got him. She got him when he was
And
like a kitten.
this is Blue.
This is a much better name for a pet than Ignatius.
I hate the name Blue.
Well, it's better than Ignatius.
I like Ignatius. I have
Well,
another dog
fine. You're
named.
allowed to have bad taste in names.
I have another dog named Marcus.
That's also better than Ignatius.
I don't like dog names for dogs, but I like human names for dogs.
Yeah. So apparently we cut back to like the Kobe playing against Garp, go scene, but I already said everything I had to say about that. Just Garp shouldn't be here. Um,
It's so weirdly placed. Again, why is it in this scene? Why
uh,
is it in this episode?
I actually didn't mind the dining room scene where Luffy like makes a speech to Kaya where he like jumps up on the table, uh, and like proselytizes about how he's like going to be a cool pirate or whatever. I thought it was fine. God, he shed so
Well,
much.
I didn't like that. I didn't like the Kuro walking with Kaya. Just felt really awkward. Like I don't know if it was like meant to feel awkward. Like if like they were trying to make it feel awkward for the audience. But it just felt like their whole body language was like really stiff. It didn't feel like
Yeah,
Kaya and Kuro had this kind of like bond with each other.
it did look
Because
stiff and awkward. I do agree.
like Kaya and Kuro are supposed to like have a really good bond, and Kaya loves Kuro, and like because he's the one that's taking care of her this whole time
And
since
then
her
it's
parents
part
died.
of the reason why it comes across as such like an intense shock for her when he betrays her and turns out he was manipulating her the whole time.
Yeah, and you don't, there's like no bond there. There's no chemistry. It's just so awkward, and Kaya just feels awkward in this scene, and she feels awkward anytime she's like in a scene with him. She feels so stiff. I don't know. Anytime she's with him, I just hate it.
Um,
And that's what I mean by it feeling the dining room scene feeling awkward to me.
yeah. Uh, that said, I do kind of enjoy for once, the way they had Luffy written during that scene. I thought it was fine. Um,
I don't know. It didn't do nothing for me, but like
that's
I
fair.
guess it kind of shows Kaya like it shows that I guess she doesn't she's not judging them for their occupation. that she's like, okay, yeah, like you guys are pirates, whatever. Like you guys are treating me fine. You guys are good people. Like, and that's all that matters.
Well, she has no attachment to her wealth, and
Yeah.
she is like she doesn't mind when Nami is stealing shit, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Yeah.
it's fine. Um, Once again, apparently there's a cut to Garp, and this time I wrote down that he still has no gusto. Like there's no exuberance in any of his writing or acting. Or like he doesn't have much of a presence because he has no exuberance. He just comes across as like a normal ass guy with just like a thick ass accent. Um,
he just he just comes off as like an older guy who has like some authority. You know, he
yeah,
could be anybody. He could be anybody.
Whereas Garp in the actual series, he has so much presence. First of all, because he's just so thick, his chest is so large. But also
He's a
because
man.
but also because he's just like so loud and boisterous. Whereas he
Hmm.
has none of
He's so
that.
unique.
Yeah, he has none of that in the series.
No, he like I said, he could be anybody. He could be any bro out there.
Yeah. Um, I think at this point in time, my next note is like after the foyer party, which actually I guess the foyer party comes before the dining hall, if I remember correctly. Um, I will say one thing in regards to like the foyer scene is not that necessarily bad of a choice, but it's kind of weird to have Luffy eat so like cravenly that he has just like stuff on his face. And he just like has like food on his face for like the entirety of the scene. Um
He
and
does.
yeah, he has just
Mm,
like sauce on the side of his like mouth or something for basically the entirety of like the scene in the foyer, and it's
that's so
distracting.
awkward.
It's awkward and it's distracting. And I don't necessarily think it's out of character since that's kind of the way that Luffy eats.
Yeah, he's a messy eater. Like I like in like when they're in Vivi's like house or mansion or whatever. Like uh Vivi's guards are like, oh my god, they're eating like animals. Like ew.
Yes. There he just like stuffs his face and grabs like everything from everywhere on the table using his rubber powers. And it's pretty
Yeah.
neat and inventive. But the he does like get like crumbs on his face. He's portrayed to have like crumbs on his face. But I think it's
Mhm.
far more distracting to have like a live action actor with like sauce on his face than it is for Luffy, an animated Luffy character to just like have crumbs on his face. I think it's the problem I have with it is more so that it's distracting to look at than anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, I don't remember, but like, you saw it for a second time, so or for a third time, for a third time.
For
My
third
bad.
time, yeah,
I saw it for a second time, but like, I don't remember that. I mean, it was a couple weeks ago, so like.
yeah. God, this. Maybe I shouldn't have put a plain white shirt on because now there's just cat hair all over it.
I'm telling you, you should brush them every day, and you wouldn't shed so much.
I. I don't know if I agree. He sheds so much.
So,
Um. So after all the dining room stuff, the next thing I write down is in regards to when Mary goes to talk to Kuro about like the inheritance of the ship stuff. And Kuro kills him, and he plays with his victims like far too much.
mm-hmm.
In the
Like
live
his cat.
action, yeah,
He's,
he's very unceremonious about his assault on Mary, if I remember correctly, in the
mm,
actual series, and he at least doesn't come across as playing with his victims in the original series. Whereas in this one, they're so intent on showing his little like trick where he like flies around the scene, that they just have him shift locations as though it's like a horror movie, just like around the wine cellar.
Yeah.
Um, when he could have just like killed Mary just like at any time. And so you have him
Yeah.
like flying around. It's like, oh, now he's dead. Oh, it took you forever.
Yeah, it took you long enough, bro. But and also, what was I gonna say? Like, and in the anime, we have Kaya. She spends a lot of money, to buy uh Kuro like fitted glasses, and we show that Kuro like just drops them on the ground because like what does he care, And then he kills Mary, and like that's such a big like like again, it's such a
And that's
big
how
gut
she
punch.
realized that he betrayed her too. Is she sees the
Yeah,
broken glass. Well, actually, she also sees that Mary was assaulted.
yeah, but it's even like it's another big hit,
Yeah,
and again,
it's doing
y-
multiple things to drive home like the point,
yeah,
and make
and
it more emotionally impactful.
we don't get that
Yeah,
like at all.
not here.
And and,
Um,
and it's almost like Mary's kind of in the live action. Mary's kind of suspicious of Kuro because he's like, we need to talk about this. Like this has never happened. Like this is weird. And when Anikaya's like, permission or Anikaya's word about this, and in the anime, Mary's not suspicious at all. He fully trusts Kuro, and and so the betrayal again hits harder. So it just there's not a lot of payoff, it feels like.
um, so I also wrote down the One Piece fighting styles. A lot of them just like don't make sense in real life. It's just another thing I don't necessarily blame the live action for.
Mhm.
But like his whole using the cat claws, like the torque that you would experience on the edge of those blades going down into your fingers, you would not be able to use those things properly. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah, no, not at all. There's so much torque, and you would get no leverage from your fingers.
Hmm.
The entire reason you're able to use a sword despite all that torque is because you have like actual grip on the sword. Like you don't technically have grip on the blade itself, but since it's all like one construction, solid construction, and you have like grip on. Like just imagine for a second, you were trying to use a sword with your finger. That's what using
Mhm.
the cat claws would be like. you, where you're not even holding on to the sword, and you're just like moving it up and down with your finger. Even if you had like a really strong finger, like strong people in One Piece would have really strong fingers, you still
Mhm.
would not be able to use that sword properly. As soon as you hit something with the sword, with the edge of the sword, it would just like bend backwards because you're not actually holding onto it. You have nothing like keeping the blade pressing down right by. Um, uh, that's an aside though.
That makes
We
sense.
yeah. We cut to a scene with Arlong, and I think his early and Bucky, and I think his early involvement is weird, but I'm like okay with it for now. Um, but I
Right,
do.
because like Buggy Buggy says that like Luffy is trying to take over like the East Blue or something. Is that what it is?
No, he just comments that Luffy is like an upstart who like that he lost to an upstart who like took the map, and Arlong is like, I want that map, and you're gonna help me get that map, and Buggy's has to acquiesce because like he's a scrub compared to Arlong, or
Yeah.
not even Arlong, one of Arlong's subordinates.
Yeah, which just like I just didn't like it very much because again, it's not like One Piece. So,
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I didn't feel the scene, but I didn't really have any particular issues with it. Um, but I did have particular issue with Arlong's theme song, his pirate trap theme. Where now that I have like actually listened to it and I was like paying attention to it when I was watching it, it's just like a terrible song. it does
I didn't
not.
like it.
Yeah, it does not fit thematically or situationally with anything that's happening in One Piece. Doesn't really fit with One Piece live action, let alone One Piece as a whole. And the song itself is just kind of bad.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I don't even know what kind of song would fit Arlong, but I know it's not Pirate Trap. That's for sure. You
Yeah, it's
know,
not. It's not that song. It does not fit.
Not that one. It does nothing for Arlong. Like, ugh, and it's just terrible. I'm like, who? And again,
Who
I don't like
posts this?
any of the songs really in the live action. Like, so, but this one was just like terrible.
Yeah.
Gets an F for me, bro.
Um. Zolo gets lost in the mansion at one point, but this time it's not funny.
Yeah,
it's
because he's like
usually
so serious, you know. Like,
yeah, it's usually funny when he gets lost places, but it's not funny in the live action.
yeah, because it's because Zoro's attitude is just like so funny and like playful
Yeah,
and it's just
I think he was
because
lost looking for the wine cellar at the time too. Is
yeah,
when
he
this
he
comes
wanted to
up.
drink, yeah,
Yeah, 'cause we're not yet at the actual like tension, quote unquote,
tension,
or
yeah, a lot of
action
tension,
rather. We're not any action. Um,
yeah.
and Nami finds herself after stealing some shit in Kaya's house in Kaya's room.
Mhm.
And when in their interactions, because Kaya like breaks into a fit of coughs, she asks if Kaya is okay. And maybe you'll call me ableist for this one, but I wrote down asking if somebody who is ill can function is not pity. Whereas Kaya takes it as pity because like, oh, people are like treating me like I can't do anything because I'm sick. Which yeah, that's pity, and I can see that being frustrating to somebody who's ill. But if you're like in the middle of having a coughing fit and somebody
Mhm.
asks if you're okay, I don't think that's like pity. I think that's like,
I think
do you
it's
need like a cough drop or something? Like,
I think it has to do with Nami's attitude before, like Nami is given her attitude before and like treating her like normal, like treating her like how she would treat anybody else. And then all of a sudden, like,
well, yeah, that is how I would treat anybody who breaks into a coughing fit.
mhm,
Is even if you were like acting normally, like 15 seconds earlier, and you start coughing harshly, I'm gonna be like, Dog, are you okay?"
yeah,
Regardless of if you have like a medical preconditions or not, existing medical conditions or not.
mhm. I mean, I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Like, I kind
It
of
fell
get what,
flat. It fell flat as a line to me, at least.
yeah, I kind of see what they were trying to do, but like they could have done it differently. Like maybe, but then if they wanted to do it like that, I would think that they wouldn't have Nami steal at all. They wouldn't even have Nami go into her room like that. Like it would have to. I mean, the scene would have to be completely different if like they wanted to throw in the line like, "I don't want your pity" or something. You know.
Yeah. Um,
But like to me, it would have to be like Kaya's like talking about her situation, and I'm gonna be like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then Kaya would be like, "Oh, it's fine. I don't want your pity," or something like that. That would fit better than this. But yeah, I see your point.
yeah.
It does fall flat. Again, I feel like Nami wouldn't steal
She.
from.
That's actually true. She only steals from pirates. She says this
Mhm.
explicitly in the original series. She only
Yeah,
steals from pirates. And this time, she's stealing from a normal wealthy person, which I would have no issue with. But it goes against her creed of only stealing from pirates. So you
yeah,
are actually right. You know,
and
it's very
Kaya does
stupid.
say that like, and again, like I hate the whole design of this house. It doesn't feel like One Piece. It feels like Alice in Wonderland. And Alice in Wonderland, I think it's set in like the 1920s or something like that. I think that's
Yeah.
the time period it was
Yeah.
written in. So all the gaudy statues and stuff in the house kind of feel like 1920s. I don't know. Again, I don't know why they
I
did
think a
like
lot
that.
of the reason for that is because the lighting is so shit, actually.
Yeah, yeah. And so like
Because
Kai's like,
you can like most mansions are going to have designs and furniture that is old fashioned because that's when they were like constructed and furnished. But if the lighting is also shit, then you're gonna feel like you're not just seeing something that was created during that time period. You're you're gonna feel like you're in that time period.
hmm yeah. But yeah, Kaya said she doesn't really feel any attachment to anything. So like, she's like, yeah, go ahead and take it. And but again, it's just like I said, I hate the whole design of this mansion, and I don't even know why it's all designed like this. But
Um, whew. uh, so Usopp was having a conversation in the dining room with Luffy, and well, Zola was listening. He didn't participate. And I, quite frankly,
Zora's too cool to talk about love.
yeah, yes. Um, I this the phrasing of my note is weird, which makes me uh completely confused as to why I wrote it. But I wrote Usopp not leaving because Kaya is weird. Um, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be Usopp not leaving because Kaya, comma, is weird, or it's because Kaya is weird that Usopp is, or if there's no comma, because Kaya is weird. I don't know. Um, my notes are
I,
bad.
yeah, I would say it is because again they're kind of going with the whole crush angle.
Yes, I did write a side note under that note, which described it as his character is more about love than in the actual series, and I think that's silly, and I think that it's probably in reference to something in that conversation about him being in love with Kaya.
Yeah, because Usopp's whole character is like, I want to be a pirate. I want to be a pirate. I want to be a pirate like my dad. You know.
Yes, not I want to be a pirate, but I love Kaya. I want to be a pirate, but I love Kaya. Also, I had a dad at one point, and it's cool that Luffy knows my dad, but I love Kaya.
Again, it's like that's not his inner conflict. You know.
Yeah, like
So it's just weird
it's
to throw that in there.
it's fine that they have a kinship as companions,
hmm
but it's it's secondary to Usopp. Love is
Yeah.
secondary to all of the Straw Hat pirates, with kind of sort of an exception to Sanji, um,
hmm
because they are asexual. They are in love with adventure, not with
Yep.
not in love with people.
And they're not
So
even aromantic. They're asexual completely.
yes, yeah. Well, of course they're not aromantic because they have the romance of adventure.
Yeah.
Um, so for Usopp to be in love with or have a crush on Kaya is silly.
I don't know if they just wanted. I mean, yeah, it does seem like in the anime that they would kind of have a crush on each other just because of their closeness. But again, so they're like, yeah, let's make it let's add this extra thing in there. But again, it's kind of weird to have that. To have that, I think it's fine to just have them as platonic friends. Not
So
everything has to, boys and girls can just be friends. It doesn't have to be romantic all the time.
Captain Kuro is back.
Captain Kuro's gonna scratch your face off in a minute.
Nah, he's not that aggressive unless you're like really stupid with him. Um,
I mean, look at that tail flicking back and forth.
yeah. I also at this point Luffy puts a like fully eaten chicken wing in his pocket. And it's like if you want him to like do the whole Luffy thing of saving eat food, whether partially eaten or not, put it in his pockets, you don't put like a fully eaten wing in his pocket.
So gross. I can understand maybe like a cookie, Maybe some bread.
Well,
Uh,
it's gross, but I can understand him putting like a non-eaten chicken wing in his pocket. But he eats an eaten one. You can see that like most, if not all, of the meat is off of the bone when he puts it in his pocket. It's
It
like
was
why
so
would
gross.
you do that?
So gross. Ew.
Unless you
And
plan on showing Luffy eating the bone too at some point in time.
ew.
I imagine Inaki Godoy just like coming up with or developing the skill to eat chicken bones
Oh my
for the
god.
sake of the world.
No. Yeah, I would hope not. But I did like this oh, and then we get to see Usopp's like skill of like being a good shooter, you know.
Yeah, but I don't know. It was
But
like
it's kind of
yes,
like
but it wasn't like super well shown.
yeah,
I don't think
at
like
all.
it didn't seem particularly impressively shown because it's cool that he can rebound like a popcorn kernel off of some pots, but
Hmm.
I feel like if you really wanted to demonstrate that he was skilled at that sort of thing, you would have him like sniping a faraway target, kind of like he does against Daddy the Father in
Hmm.
Logtown.
Yeah, but like where would you
That was really impressive. Like that was cool to see him snipe something so accurately from so far away in Logtown. Whereas in this case, it's just like I don't know, it's just piddling.
but again, where would you show that in a fun house? Because again, it feels like we're just in a fun house. So how would you show that?
I don't remember how it's shown that he's a sniper in Syrup Village. Initially in the actual series.
I don't remember either, to be honest.
Um, so Zoro and Usopp make their way down to the wine cellar because Zoro is an alcoholic. And Kuro is just still there
With a dead
for some
body.
reason. Yeah, so it's just right down. He just lords over his victims' bodies. He's just lording over Mary's body. He's like, how long have you been there? Like, what
Oh
have
my
you been
god, like
doing
you
this
wouldn't even
entire time?
like you wouldn't even try and were you taking a nap, bro? Like you didn't even try and hide the evidence? Like what are you doing?
Yeah. Um, this is also the first time I make note of the bounty poster effect, where they throw the bounty poster of each of the antagonists in front of their faces,
Hmm.
when they're like introduced as the antagonist.
I kind of liked
And
it.
it's a neat idea, but I think it's poorly done. Um, and the reason why is because they like are super obviously not real posters. They're super obviously digital effects, like um, edited into the scene or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, in that like they don't physically interact with any of the characters or the environment, and then the characters like act in real life as though they are real and like slash them up or do whatever of them and like tear them off, and it's like they're interacting with an obviously fake thing as though it was real.
Hmm.
And so it looks really unnatural when they do these things. And the way you could fix that is either you do the effect better and make it look like it's actually physically interacting with the characters, or you have an actual physical piece of paper interacting with them that in the case of Kuro he slashes up with his uh finger swords or whatever.
Hmm.
Um or I don't know, you just do it in a way that looks better. It's a cool idea, but they just executed it poorly.
Hmm. Like I said, I thought it was fun. I thought it looked cool. I thought it was pretty cool.
I don't know. It was just so obviously fake, just so obviously not
I mean, yeah, it
interacting
was
with the
obviously
physical
fake, but like it
environment.
looked cool.
I I I don't think it looks cool when the actors are like look funny when when they're pretending to. It's like you know how in a lot of modern high budget film productions the actors are effectively acting on green screens and green
Hmm.
suits for most of it. But the thing is with those is that they actually spend sufficient like time on the visual effects, and they direct and write the characters properly so that it all comes together and it looks good in the end. It looks natural at the end of the process. It looks like they actually were physically interacting with those things. Whereas in this case, it doesn't. It doesn't look like that at all. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like a fake digital piece of paper that was like slapped on the center of the screen that Kuro like kind of does this at.
I mean, yeah, I get your point, and like I do like. I mean, you can tell it's obviously fake and it's obviously digital, but like I thought it was cool.
I thought it would have been better if they just had the bounty poster throw up on the center of the screen and then fly off of the screen without the character interacting with it. Because again, it doesn't look like it's physically actually there. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make sense for them to interact with something that's not physically there. Like I can imagine being Zolo in this case and seeing Kuro like break out his swords or whatever, and then all of a sudden Kuro does his like scratchy thing at like the air, and you're just like, what the fuck are you doing?
I kind of yeah, I get it. I just kind of saw it as just like something just for the audience, but like I didn't kind of think about it as like it's almost like time froze, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Um.
So I don't know.
Well, it is also like proceeding forward is also incredibly stupid that Zolo gets knocked out from just having a bottle whacked on his head.
Yeah, I'm like this man nearly bleeds out how many times in the series, and like
This is like every arc.
every arc. Even like even with Buggy, man, he was bleeding out carrying like
Yeah.
Luffy's cage in the
Well, not in
manga
the
and
live
anime
action. He sustained no injuries in the live action.
because he's just so cool.
Yeah, but I mean, at the very least, at least in what we see from the live action, Axe Hand Morgan does like land a a solid like hit on Zoro's swords that he blocked or whatever. But you experience the force of that anyways, and he gets set flying backwards, so you can tell
Yeah,
like he's able to sustain a lot of force. He's able to withstand a lot of force, and I don't think that having a bottle smacked on the back of his head would have been nearly enough to knock him out. uh,
I don't think so either.
Even in the live action, but like especially in the actual series.
Hmm.
No, it would not be nearly enough to knock him out. He would just shrug it off. It's like, damn, I can't believe you just hit me on top of the head with a bottle. What the fuck's
Like,
your deal?
oh, I got a little bump on my head. Weird.
I'm pretty sure Nami's punches are harder than a bottle on the head.
Yeah, honestly. And yeah, and then like he's out the whole time. They're even dragging him to the well to dump
Yes,
his body in the
he
well
was knocked
too.
out for a very long time as well.
Yeah, which again is weird. Like, come
Um,
on, bro.
Nami, for some reason, gained a conscience about stealing just because she became friends with Kaya, which is just incredibly weird considering like the reasons why she is stealing. So it
Yeah,
doesn't really
because
make any
like
sense.
yeah, she has her own moral code and her own values and principles that she follows, which is like save enough money uh to do what I have to do. And that's all she's striving for right now. So,
Um,
it's just weird.
the Black Cat pirates act as though Zolo is dead just from having the battle hit on his head,
They
without
don't
doing
even check.
without yeah, without inflicting any other injuries. They just effectively act like he's dead, and then they dump him down the well as though he's like as dead of a body as Mary's body. And like, granted, reasonably, he should have died from falling down the well.
But he's solo.
Yeah. But if Zolo can fall down the well and sustain no injuries, why did he get knocked out from a bottle on the back of the head?
He was extra drunk, he just wasn't in his
Yeah.
full
And
capabilities,
yeah.
okay?
And part of the reason you can tell that they're straight up acting like he's dead as opposed to just knocked out, is they throw his swords down the well with him instead of without killing him. They don't inflict any
Why?
other injuries. Like what?
Yeah,
It's so stupid.
and they're like, hide the evidence. I'm like, then throw his swords in the ocean, bro.
Yeah.
Instead you throw him down the well? Huh?
It's so stupid.
But like I've heard of people like who hide. I think there was like one murder episode that I watched where like it was like a Jane Doe and like her body was thrown in a well, but like they filled it with concrete or something, so like they couldn't pull her body out. I can't remember. I'm like, that's a much smarter idea than like just throwing a body down a well. Like,
That's some
in
mafia shit
what?
right there.
Yeah. So like, come on, bro. Think a
Yeah.
little bit. But like, they're made to be dumb.
Yes. Yeah, they are. We get a brief scene of Usopp's flashback, and once again, children are like shit actors because this time they're showing Usopp's mom dying,
Mhm.
and and the kid is just
It's not funny. It's not funny.
it's very funny. It's it's so apathetic.
He really
Just
is.
his mom dying. There's just no emotion on his face whatsoever, and just incredibly monotone in his line delivery.
Mom.
He's just like, no,
Mom.
mom, no.
Like, bro, come on. Poor kid. It's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny.
It's funny.
But he was cute. I think all kids are cute. He was cute, so like, I give him a pass. Okay, he tried his best. And I thought that scene, God, it didn't really give. Maybe it's just because the kid actor sucked, but it didn't give across that like it wasn't really that gut punch that like here Usopp is alone and that like he's alone in this world and that he doesn't have a mother or a father to kind of like guide him, and that he wanted his father to come back, and it's just
I don't know if it as adequately portrayed the whole like lying about pirates being here because his dad was a pirate and like he thought that his mom would feel better once his dad comes back from his adventure. I don't think it as adequately like portrayed that.
yeah, I don't think so either. Um and also one thing is that like because I kind of went back and I was looking at our uh video that we did on this arc in the anime. And one thing that I said was that about being a community member, that Usopp felt like a good community member and that he had a good community around him. Again, it feels like there's no community because we have no access to anybody in the village. It seems like everybody in the village hates him. Hates him.
I think the main, first of all, he has the Usopp pirates in the actual series, so he at least does have like friends. But the real redeeming factor for the village, is that at the end of the arc, we get like a cut to the villagers who, or the specific villager who kicks him out when he like talks about screaming about the pirates. He's like, "Oh, why aren't I hearing Usopp complain about pirates or yell
Yeah.
about pirates arriving today? It feels kind of like lonely without him doing that." And like I miss him for doing that. It's like it's not as exciting anymore.
Yeah.
You can tell that these people are like relatively good natured about what Usopp is doing and understanding. Whereas you don't get anything of the sort in the live action. So the village does not have any sort of like redeeming opinion of Usopp.
Yeah, like there's no community around him, and Usopp does not feel like a community member. So it sucks. I hate that. I really dislike that. And I complained about that with the Buggy episode too. I just hate that there's no community.
No
So, yeah,
community. Yeah.
it's a bummer,
Um,
bro.
and then my very last note for episode 3 is that I think it's silly that the Marines are consoling Usopp about how he's not being believed about yelling at the pirates about the pirates.
Yeah,
Because the
you think the
Marines are here
Marines
for some
care?
reason. Because Garp
You
was
think the
chasing after
Marines give a
Luffy, and
care?
it's like, it's just overly complicating what's happening. Especially since in the end they quite literally accomplished nothing at all. There was like no purpose for the Marines to be there.
Yeah, because like and then yeah, because why are they there? They're coming after Luffy, right? Because I guess they
Yes, they're
spot
going
Luffy
after
there,
Luffy because Garp wants to arrest Luffy.
and then they don't even arrest him. So like,
Well, right, because Kobe has like an actual conscience. Uh, and
Kobe's a good boy,
yeah.
and
Meanwhile,
and and so,
Hamepo's not a good boy.
I was a hate him. So
This is
yeah, they just
this
feel useless. I
Yeah,
don't know.
this is bleeding into episode 4 though. And it's been a little over 2 hours. Um, and considering episode 4 also contains Zoro's flashback, I don't think it would be very quick for us to talk about episode 4.
Yeah, and I didn't finish watching episode 4.
Oh, okay. So we didn't end up talking about more than one episode. Each of these episodes is over twice as long as the corresponding live action episode.
Yeah, it's because there's just so much to talk about. It's exhausting.
Yeah, there's just so much. It's just so ass. It's just so ass.
There's so much to complain about. Like I said, it's not a good time. Like I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted now. I was having a good day. I was having a good day, bro. I was having a good day.
All right. Well, that's that's the end of this episode of the Pirate Odyssey. Join us next time where we're progressively even more upset and insane, having gone insane. I can't even speak anymore. Peace, I guess.
Bye.